I shouldn't be here. No, seriously, I shouldn't be here standing before you today or sitting before you here today as a Forbes contributor with over 60 million views in 2 years, a LinkedIn top voice with more than 28,000 followers, a six-figure entrepreneur living my dream life as a digital nomad right now in the tropical island of St. Lucia, silver winner of the Young Business Person of the Year Award from the London Chamber of Commerce, winner of the Bayes Business School Rising Stars Scholarship. I should be here before you today, sitting here with these accolades. You know why? Because I didn't play by the rules. The rules that define success within my field, within my industry, the rules that people would say you traditionally need to follow to get to the level of success that I have achieved, I didn't follow them. As a matter of fact, I rewrote them. Let me take you back a little bit to the year 2019. I was 19 years old. And at that time, I had the audacity to start a business, a coaching business, in a field I had zero professional experience and zero professional qualifications in: career coaching. I don't know why, up to this day, it astounds me to this day, but I had the guts and the courage to believe in myself, and most importantly, to believe in my God. And faith in myself and in my God enabled me to, in the midst of my family and I facing eviction, in the midst of me going through an existential crisis with my family, to the point where I was facing thoughts of suicide, I plucked up the courage and had the audacity to put myself out there, promote my services as a career coach. That was an unconventional, daring move. But thankfully, within 6 months, I multiplied my income 5 times. In just over a year, I received over 70 5-star reviews. I was fortunate to work with clients from all over the world, in over 8 countries, ranging from global managers to directors to high-profile clients who had worked with the royal family. And yet, I hadn't followed the rules. I hadn't followed the traditional rules of business success. And yet I achieved this success within a short space of time at the age of 19. Talk about rewriting the rules. Well, how about that time when I was promoted to management? In fact, I had several promotions to management, both internally and externally for other jobs, up to 5 promotions in my career within my early 20s. And yet I was told that I was too young to know how to manage a team. I'll get back to that later. Talk about rewriting the rules. Or how about that time when, at the age of 23, I landed a scholarship, the Rising Star Scholarship at the Bayes Business School for the Global MBA program. Mind you, the Bayes Business School is one of the most prestigious business schools in the whole world, with a 14% exclusive acceptance rate, and I received an unconditional offer with a Rising Star Scholarship, even though I didn't have a bachelor's degree at the age of 23. I still received the Rising Star Scholarship and an unconditional offer for their global MBA program. Talk about rewriting the rules. Or how about where I am now as a 6-figure entrepreneur and LinkedIn top voice and a recognized industry expert and thought leader in my field when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to AI, being featured on national TV in the United States, being respected for my contributions to my field. Yet, I still don't, up to this day, have a business degree. I still don't have the conventional background, the conventional path that many people would follow if they were to chart a path to where I am right now. Talk about rewriting the rules. And I want to tell you something, that a lot of times we restrict ourselves in our careers and in our organizations because we hold to our preconceived notions. We hold to predefined ideals, rules, which rules are good, but sometimes they can be heavily restrictive. And where we fall and where we fail as organizations and as managers is when we stick to the same old set of rules year in, year out, year in, year out. And there's no change. And we're not willing to change. We're not willing to adapt to the times. We're not willing to evolve as organizations and as leaders and as managers, much less in our own lives as professionals. We're not willing to think outside the box and get creative and explore new possibilities and new ideals. Let me give you an example of what that looks like in my own life. When I was 21, turning 22, and there was one time when I had applied for a role, my contract was ending, and I had applied for a role outside of my current job, and I landed it. It was a contract manager job, and I was elated. I was excited. I had landed the job of my dreams. I wanted to be a contract manager. I was managing government projects, government contracts across the United Kingdom in workforce development projects on behalf of the Department for Work and Pensions, and not working directly for them, but working on behalf of other companies as a contractor. And I was so excited. And so here I was sitting at my work from home office, my work from home desk. And this was my first day in my new role as a contract manager. And I was ready to get started with onboarding. I would just open my laptop. I'm like, okay, let's sign in. Let's get to it. I'm ready for onboarding. I'm ready to start. I'm ready to meet my new team. I was so happy. And then, just as I was about to sign into Teams, open up my onboarding, see what my agenda is for the day, I received a phone call. So I picked up the phone, and it was the recruiter who had initially put me forward for the role. So I say hello, and let's just say the man's name is Luke. He's like, hi, Rachel. He's like, I need to speak to you for a minute. He says, first of all, how old are you? And I'm like, how old am I? That's a bit of a bizarre question. At the time, I was too naive to understand you don't need to answer that question. It's not relevant. But I was still growing. So I answered and I said, I'm 20. I think I was 22 at the time. I said, I'm 22. He said, okay. He says, the reason why I'm asking is because your manager has some concerns about you. I'm like, me? Concerns? I hadn't even started my job yet. I was pronto, early. This is my first day at my new job. I'm working from home. I open my laptop. I'm ready to start onboarding. I haven't even started the job yet. I haven't even started day one. Like, what concerns? And he's like, well, he's expressed to me that because of your age, he suspected I was young anyway. Because of your age, you're going to need to take a step down from your current job title as contract manager. So he doesn't feel that you would be experienced enough or mature enough to be able to handle managing people. He's like, how are you going to manage your team? How are you going to manage conflict? How are you going to manage low performers? People who might need to go on a pip? How are you going to manage those situations at your age? How are you going to know how to deal with conflicts in your team? And he said, your manager has these concerns because she thinks you're too young for the role. So what we recommend to you is, Rachel, take a step down. You can still stay in the company. Just take a step down and accept a pay cut. Now, obviously, I didn't accept a pay cut and I didn't step down. I walked out with dignity and I claimed compensation because that was age discrimination. But the irony is, the next job that I landed was a step up from that. I was managing multiple contracts, project managing multiple teams and external stakeholders and working with government commissioners. It paid more than that job would have ever paid me, all because the manager in this new company that I was working at believed in me and believed in my potential. She saw beyond my age, my apparent age, because I actually look younger than what I really am. She saw beyond my physical age, my date of birth, as well as how I look, and she saw potential. She read in between and she could see, you know what? Let me put Rachel to the test. Let me give her a chance. Let me see what she's made of. And I delivered, and then some. I won multiple contracts for that company. Big contracts, in person as well as remotely. I recovered a failing business operations within that company. And I was able to do that and thrive and be successful in my role until the day that, unfortunately, that contract ended, because This manager took a chance on me. This manager believed in me. This manager was willing to rewrite the rules. Traditionally, for the role that I had applied for, they would rarely have wanted someone who was a bit more seasoned, had a bit more years of experience behind them. And yet, even with the little, like probably a year and a half to 2 years of experience that I had, this new manager at a different organization was willing to take a bet on me because she saw potential, because she was willing to be bold and daring enough as a leader, as a manager, to rewrite the rules, to think outside the box. And I share this because if there's anything I want you to remember from today's talk, is these 3 points. These 3 points that I want to anchor and ground you, whether you work in HR, whether you're a business leader, or whether you're a professional. These are the 3 rules that I want you to abide by, which will ground you in your career and in your organization. The first rule is this: culturally accepted norms, which I say the first takeaway is this: culturally accepted norms inhibit your growth. Point blank, period. Culturally accepted norms inhibit your growth. You're restricting your potential when you decide to play by the old rules. If you see a hire, a potential new hire, and their resume and their interview skills are off the chain and they tick everything on your list, and yet you have some inhibitions because they may not look like your ideal candidate. They may not be the age bracket or the age category of your ideal candidate. Trust and believe. You need to take that risk as a leader, as a manager, because otherwise you risk operating in a world of people who are exactly like you. And when you operate in a world of people who are exactly like you and you don't have a diverse team, you risk missing out on so much creativity and innovation. There's beauty in diversity. There's beauty in having different perspectives. There's beauty in varying age groups and differences and cultures and backgrounds. And if you limit yourself based on bias, based on this is the way things have always been done, you restrict your business's growth and potential. There will be no growth and potential because you're operating based on old rules. And old rules, they have a shelf life. They will become outdated. So that's the first thing I want you to remember, to think outside of cultural norms, think outside of this is the way we hire, and see beyond and be like that manager who hired me based on what she saw in me. She saw potential and she took a chance, and boy, was she thankful that she did. The second takeaway that I want you to grab from this particular talk that we're having together, this time we're having together, is that you need to create a culture as a leader, as a manager, where risk-taking is the norm. A lot of companies have this catchphrase where, whether they say it directly or indirectly, we hear it all the time. Well, this is the way things have always been done. You've heard that before, right? You present an idea in a board meeting or in a team meeting or in a manager's meeting, and they'll say, well, we're not too sure about that. We're not sure if we want to experiment or try that approach because let's just stick to this way. This is the way things have always been done. And the problem with that approach is you limit yourself significantly to innovation, to creativity, to expanding into new markets, to so many things, because you're saying, this is the way things have always been done. Let's just stick with that. Sticking with the way things are always done is creating a culture of false safety. False safety is where you feel like you're okay, you feel like you're safe, but actually you're not because you're falling behind your competitors. So you need to create a culture as a manager and as a leader in your organization where risk-taking is the norm, where it's okay to think outside the box. It's okay where you encourage your team members to consider new approaches. And I'm going to give you an example. There was a time when in one of my very first management job, I was leading a team, a cross-functional team in London. We were delivering a huge contract called the JETS contract. This was back in the pandemic to help people get back into work. And we had high KPIs and targets and SLAs. And my team consistently was the highest performing team for 6 months in a row. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. For 6 months in a row, they were the highest performing team in London. Why? because I decided not to play by the old rules that my previous managers or the other managers in my organization were following. I decided to take innovative, outside the box approaches. One of the approaches we took as a team is I said, okay, let's have a knowledge sharing session. So every Tuesday we had training Tuesday. And what I would do, I kicked it off with the first one. It was a 10-minute, in our team meeting in the morning, it was a 10-minute presentation or a quick talk where I would share a piece of knowledge I had learned about our industry. Something, just a nugget of something, and something that they could practically apply with practical, tangible takeaways for their day at work or for their week at work. It could be a way to improve their process, a better way of coaching their clients, just anything. And I encourage the team to get involved. So every Tuesday we would rotate. Every Tuesday we would have team members. It was so fun. We would sometimes pull in team members from other departments because they wanted to get involved. And they would each be sharing nuggets of wisdom and inspiration from their work, best practices that they had created, new workflows and processes that they had adopted, new things they had learned about the industry, anything which they were learning, which they had discovered. They would share that if just for 10 minutes in our Tuesday team meetings. And the beauty of that is we were creating knowledge sharing opportunities. And I encouraged my team to take risks, to act on the things that they were learning in the week, act on the things that their team members were sharing. It may have not been according to company rules. It may not have been something that a company handbook dictated, but it was something that I encouraged them to do because I thought there's fresh information here, there's fresh information flowing, there's new knowledge being imparted and received. Let's act on it. Let's take risks. Let's try these new approaches and trust and believe. We took on that approach, and every Tuesday training was a wild success because that week we would implement the things that we were learning and sharing with each other. So no one was operating in a silo to themselves, keeping their own success. Everyone shared their success. And because of that, for 6 months consistently, we were at the leaderboard in our organization. For the Central London teams, we were at the top. High performing with our KPIs, exceeding targets, because we were willing to take risks, because we were willing to think outside of this is the way things are always done. Instead, we built a growth mindset. I was intentional as a manager to develop that growth mindset and say, look, team, we're not going to operate by the way things have always been done at this organization. We're going to ask ourselves, what can we do to challenge the norm? What can we do to challenge the status quo and do things a little differently to see momentous results? The final takeaway I'm going to leave with you is this. You need to be more scared of not trying as a leader and in your career than to be scared of trying but failing. So the only way you grow in your life and in your career, like I said, is when you rewrite the rules. When you define your own success, when you're not scared to say, you know what, this is the way things should be done. Let's act on it. Let me follow my gut. Let me follow my intuition. You should be more scared of not trying at all and risking being left behind, risking being stagnant, being irrelevant, than actually trying and failing. At least you know you've tried. You know, in my career, I took a lot of risks. There were a lot of times I put myself out there. There were times when it failed. Well, it flopped, but it wasn't a failure because it was a learning experience for me. And I believe that in our lives, in our careers, and in our workplaces, we hinder ourselves a lot through fear. We hinder ourselves through what if. We hinder ourselves through, what does this person think? But if we created a culture where we're thinking outside the box, where we're willing to make mistakes and learn from them, my goodness, the results that we would experience in our careers and in our lives. And I'm so grateful that in my career, I did not live and abide by the rules. I rewrote my rules of success. I defined my own success. I sat down with pen and paper and with prayer. And I said, God, you direct my path, because I'm a Christian. I said, God, you direct my path. You direct my steps, my career in my life. And I just let him take it from there. And he guided me into areas that I wouldn't have imagined, directions that I wouldn't have taken initially. But I let him rewrite the rules for me. And I wrote it along with him. And as I did that, I was able to achieve the level of success I have right now. So I want to challenge you Whether you work in HR, whether you're a business leader, a team manager, or just in your own career, don't limit yourself. Don't be restricted to the rules that are laid out for you. You don't have to follow the traditional rules to be successful. Think outside the box, get creative, release cultural norms, release biases, release preconceived ideas and opinions and suggestions and the chatter of others, and define, rewrite the rules, define your own success.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And I hope you're enjoying St. Lucia, somewhere else I need to get to, Oregon and St. Lucia. I wish I was blessed with that level of confidence. It's fantastic to see that coming through on Rachel's talk there. I think one of the main messages the final messages that Rachel left us with, and I've seen for over a decade now at some of the best organizations around the world, is the permission from leadership to the teams to fail fast and fail often. And that is essentially to try something. If it doesn't work, learn from what worked, what didn't, and then go again. And that is one of the greatest gifts I think great leadership can give to an organization and to their people. Try things. We'll back you if they don't work, and go again. And they're award-winning organizations. So a really good message there at the end from Rachel.